94 miles north of the Scottish mainland, where the blustery Atlantic meets the North Sea, lies Shetland, an archipelago of some 100 or so islands, mostly uninhabited. Until the late 15th century, they belonged to Scandinavia. Being closer to Bergen than Edinburgh, the islanders remain proud of their Norse heritage. Recently, new riches have been discovered, supplementing the island's staple of farming and fishing. The most northerly island is Unst, where locals mix tradition with innovation to survive in a fast-changing world. In the days to come, Frank and Jem travel to Lerwick for the Pony Breeders of Shetland auction.
I can switch off, but Frank's completely different kettle of fish. He's more emotionally attached to them. He finds it very difficult. If you're going to breed ponies, you've got to let them go as well.
Mother Mary gets out the power tools to create a new space to welcome visitors.
If I have a chapel here in the Hermitage, it's there ready, and it's a witness not only to orthodoxy but to Christian prayer. I'm very familiar with a hammer drill.
And islanders celebrate the Harvest Festival with exotic fare from afar.
Can I order sweet and sour chicken, chicken balls and batter, please?
Crispy chili beef, please.
And something more traditional.
No, thank you, Jerry, no.
Just made this morning, so it's all.
When I come into work in the morning and it's roasted mutton, I know right away, and I think, oh no, roasted mutton today?
Yeah.
No soup for me today?
No.
Summer is coming to an end on Britain's most northerly island, and the long days are getting shorter. All around Unst, islanders are busying themselves, taking advantage of the precious daylight before the long winter nights draw in. At Clibberswick Stud Farm, Frank Roberts, the island's resident horse whisperer, is attempting to coax Sula, his 5-month-old filly foal, into a trailer for the first time.
I'm not going to physically go out to persuade her. I want her to make her own mind up. She's got to make a conscious decision about this herself. It's just a waiting game, it's time.
Sula is just one of 4 young Shetland ponies that Frank and his wife Jem are taking to the biggest pony auction of the year in Lerwick, a 3-hour journey away.
I would try different techniques. Swear, probably. Yeah, it's just getting the confidence to get over the ramp. It's the big issue. because it's quite noisy when they're first stepping on it.
Sula finally relents,
That's good.
and the other 3 ponies join her on the trailer for the big sale.
It's been pretty dire with the economics at the moment. The auctioneer doesn't normally go below 10 or something like that. Yeah, that's a severe loss you're taking at that price. Yeah, we've seen them not even getting a bid. It just depends on the selling of the day.
This journey might be the first of many for these young ponies, with buyers at the auction bidding from as far as America. But making a profit on their sales is a precarious business. Vet papers, microchipping and transportation costs add an extra £100 per animal to their overheads. Despite needing the money, Jem knows that taking the ponies to auction is an emotional time for Frank.
I can switch off, but Frank's completely different kettle of fish. He finds it very difficult, letting them go. He would keep them all if he could.
Horrible. Absolutely horrible. I don't believe anybody that really loves their ponies ever gets used to it, especially when you've seen them being born and you learn their analogies. They're all different. Each one has his own little analogy. And yeah, you get to know them. Yeah, it's a sad day for everybody.
Usually, Jem and Frank sell 6 ponies, but this year, with prices and buyers down, they've brought just 4. As difficult as it is to part with them, Frank and Jem will have to sell their beloved ponies for their stud farm to stay viable. On the north side of Unst, Mother Mary, the island's Eastern Orthodox nun, is busy preparing for the long, cold, wintry days to come.
I'm just curious to see how it's going to come up. I suspected that there was a fireplace here because a croft house just would have a fireplace, but also because the wall the other side had a lot of peat staining, and that really gave a clue that there was a fireplace this side. In fact, the stove has just arrived today, but it'd be quite big enough to heat this room, and I suspect the heat will go through the house. I hope the heat will go through the house.
Having sorted out the heating, Mother Mary now has more ambitious plans for her new home.
The next job is to set up the chapel. If I have a chapel here in the Hermitage, it's there ready, and it's a witness. It's a witness not only to orthodoxy, but to Christian prayer. And it's there ready for people to share and to visit.
Like in her previous house on the neighbouring island of Fetla, Mother Mary has chosen her spare room to become her sanctuary and chapel.
As far as I've got with the chapel is just the entrance. So the door was the chapel door in Fetla, which I brought across. And it exactly fits, which is great. it's got to this nice little cross there. But you can see it's got a lot of work to be done before it can become a chapel. The altar, the holy table, will be at that end, and there will be a sort of lattice covering over the window, and maybe an alcove there, and a bench for people to sit on here. And just above the holy table, the altar, I plan to take out the plasterboard and take it back to the stone, so it will have an archway back to the stone with an icon on it. I'm a bit nervous about doing this, but I think I'll have a go. I made the chapel in Fetler myself, and many years' experience of DIY. I'm very familiar with a hammer drill.
At his manse on the neighbouring island of Yell, with the autumn equinox and the full moon approaching, Minister David Cooper is preparing his sermon for the pagan festival celebrating harvest time.
Lots of people are still working the land, sheep and a few cattle, and we just need to recognize once in a while our place alongside all these things and remember the harvest.
A keen gardener, David is planning his own personal contribution to the event.
I'm going to cut some bay and take it to the church to decorate the church for harvest, and then folk can take a sprig home and put it in their soup. We can take some of these luscious bits of growth. Aren't they lovely? I'm no good at decoration, but I can provide the wherewithal.
For the past week, members of the congregation have been busy decorating St. John's Kirk in Baltersound, where this year's ceremony will be held. One of the church's bell ringers, Barbara Priest, and her sister Anne are putting the finishing touches to the decorations.
It's once a year and we've lots to give thanks for, so it's not an effort. This window represents the food that comes from further away. It acknowledges, I suppose, how much we would think of as Chinese food, Oriental food that we now eat, and so much part of our diet.
One of the reasons Chinese food now sits alongside traditional Unst fare at harvest is the popularity of the monthly visit to the island by the Haiyang Chinese takeaway. Chefs journey from Scalloway on the main island to community halls all over Shetland to cook up traditional dishes. Today, they've travelled 3 hours to Unst.
Can I order sweet and sour chicken, please? Chicken balls and batter, please.
Catherine Moat, who works at the island's tea rooms, is a firm believer in traditional Chinese medicine.
It's quite a good cure if you've had a heavy Saturday night. So if there's been a disco or something on at the hall, it is a bit more popular then.
For horticulturalist Sarah McBurney, it's a chance to take a break from the norm.
Anybody who wants to come up and feed us, it's brilliant. Means I don't have to cook every night of the week, all year. That's me, sorted.
Despite the popularity of the Chinese food, there are some islanders who prefer to stick to traditional Shetland cuisine. In the kitchen of Britain's most northerly shop, the final checkout, Charlie Priest is busy preparing an island favourite.
This roasted mutton, salted, dried mutton, yeah. Lamb.
Roasted mutton soup.
I've been making it for years and years, ever since I was a boy, and been making the soup. It was always the thing to make especially in the days when there were no freezers or fridges and no power, then they could, at least they had dried mutton, so they could make a pot of roasted mutton soup anytime.
How do you think you do on MasterChef, Charlie?
I don't know. No, I would probably nobody would understand me maybe in MasterChef, I would think.
Oh, that smells good. I can smell the soup.
Putting Charlie's soup to the test is Ian Henderson.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
Warm you up
Yeah.
all day.
Thank you.
Oh, Ian, how's
Lovely.
the soup today?
Lovely soup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I could tell a good soup.
Not every islander is a fan, though.
Roasted mutton?
Yeah.
No, thank you, Charlie, no.
Just made this morning, so it's all.
No thanks,
No.
no my cup of tea. I don't like roasted mutton at all.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
No. It's got a distinctive smell, and it's just. When I come into work in the morning and it's roasted mutton, I know right away, and I think, oh no, roasted mutton today.
Yeah.
No soup for me today.
No. Yeah, it's a shame, especially made the soup.
He makes the greatest soups, but he still can't change my mind about roasted mutton, I'm afraid.
Back at the pony auction in Lerwick on Shetland mainland, Frank and Jem are giving their ponies a final brush before the sale. The time to finally say goodbye is nearing. The ponies are bought for breeding, for children, or as companions for older horses. And head auctioneer Rod Mackenzie will preside over this year's sale, which with just 68 lots is significantly smaller than last year's.
This would be the least number we had in the last 10 years. I remember there used to be up to about 180, 200 Shetland ponies, and up till about 4 years ago we could sell them all. But that's by and large gone away now. So you've only got the hardcore pony breeders that are looking for maybe a filly to go back into their stud, or maybe a very good colt.
Prior to the auction, the ponies are prejudged in their respective classes. Miniatures, colts for young males, fillies for young female, castrated males, geldings, and mature mares for breeding. The judge looks for a nice balanced head, healthy teeth, a plump rump, good colouring, and calm temperament. After the assessment, the ponies are awarded coloured rosettes, which aid prospective buyers before the auction begins.
I got a second, yay! Good lass.
Hold on.
Yay!
With 2 rosettes, things are looking hopeful for Frank and Jem.
First and a second, that's pretty good.
Lot number 66.
But as the auction starts,
50 guineas for him then, 50 guineas. The colt fall, 50 guineas, 20 guineas then, 20 guineas, 20 guineas, 20 guineas.
the opening lots struggle to get any bids.
20 guineas, 20 guineas, 20 guineas, 20 guineas, 20 guineas, anybody. 20 guineas, no sale then. Lot number 3. 50 guineas for him then, 50 guineas. 50 guineas, 50 guineas, we want the less. If you want the bid, give us 50 guineas for a start. 50 guineas. We'll move on. Sorry, no sale.
Back on Unst, in her hermitage on the north of the island, Mother Mary is throwing herself into her chapel build.
We're a bit scared of electric saws. That's the only thing. But no, power tools are great, really helpful. And I find it really handy to have these work 2 drills at a time, makes it very quick. It's part of a monastic tradition to work with your hands and with tools and be self-sufficient as well. So all those things come together, as well as just enjoying it. I really do enjoy it. The chapel will allow me to celebrate certain services in a much fuller, better way than I could in my cell, which is what a nun's bedroom is called, basically. But also it's a place where other people can come.
Mother Mary's first service in her handcrafted chapel will be the blessing of the icon St. Cinnabar, an Irish saint who's said to have visited Shetland on her way to Norway in the 10th century.
It's a bit of a race against time because the blessing of the icon is tomorrow morning, and I've invited a friend along as well, so that's a little bit more pressure. It's just got to be finished, but it will be. It'll be ready tomorrow morning, God willing.
It's the morning of the harvest service, and at St. John's Church, a time for islanders to give thanks for everything the sea and land has provided.
It's lovely to see everything on display. A lot of folk must have come along bringing fruit and vegetables and so on, and have decorated the church so that it really looks sumptuous. Folk have been busy. As long as the world exists, there will be a time for planting and a time for harvest. There will always be cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night.
Minister David Cooper is attending to another important duty at the only school on the island in Balta Sound. To honour the harvest, the children have all brought in tins as a donation to their local charity.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Hello.
All things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, all things wise and wonderful, the Lord God made them all.
Most children grow up with almost everything they need. This is an opportunity for them to share. And yeah, that's an important lesson to learn. Now, it's a scandal and disgrace that there are some people who haven't got enough to eat, but we can help them. And this is your way of helping, and I'm sure that when this has been delivered to Lerwick, there'll be a letter come back to school thanking you for sharing your harvest with people who, for a little while, just have not got enough.
In Lerwick, at the Shetland Pony Auction,
20 guineas, 20 guineas, 20 guineas. Anybody? 20 guineas. Anybody here? 20 guineas. No?
most of the ponies are still not even meeting their reserve prices.
140, 140, 140 for the beta, 140 beta, 140, 140. Unfortunately, we'll have to leave that. I'm sorry.
With only a few minutes before their prized ponies go under the hammer, things are looking bleak for Frank and Jem.
They're not hitting anything. Nobody's bidding on them.
100 guineas, 100 guineas, 110, 120.
But suddenly, the bidding starts to pick up pace.
250, 280, 300, 300 beta, 300 beta, 300 beta, 400 beta, 607 beta, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
The bids are coming in thick and fast.
660 on the market she goes. 660 last chance on the internet now. 660.
We've had a pony go to Texas. We've had another one go to Norway. Maybe one or two go to Sweden. And several go to the south of England. There's a lady has phoned up there, and a lady in Romney Marsh in Kent. She's bought 2 ponies.
Okay, good luck, then.
Okay.
Showtime for Sula. She needs to sell, and at a good price, if Frank and Jem are not to make a loss.
150,
Frank and Jem managed to sell their 3 remaining ponies for a total of £565. They've only just broken even.
There's quite a lot of them in there didn't even get a bid, didn't they? Yeah, so
We could have been taking them all home, sort of, so it's good that way.
Knowing that Sula is going to a good home nearby has made the emotional wrench that much easier for Frank.
I'll look at her. Can you know? Yeah, I'm delighted June got it, yeah.
What did he do?
That's more important than any money that you're going to get.
Oh, absolutely delighted. Really. She's the only one at the sale that I hate me eye on. And normally when you fancy something like that, you kinda get it. She's everything. She's a nice pony, nice colour, lovely temperament. I think Frank will come down and see her, or he'll see her at shows and bits and pieces like that. He'll be keeping his eye on her.
Back on Unst, at Mother Mary's Hermitage, a special visitor is arriving to join in her first service, the blessing of the icon St. Cineva at her newly built chapel.
Good to see you here.
Well, here we are. Thank you.
And the DIY and heating are instantly appreciated.
You're actually the first person to see it at this stage.
Right. Yes. The warmth and the smell.
The smell.
Yes, isn't it? Wonderful. Wonderful.
The plinths here are driftwood from Fetler.
Right. You
Which I've
found them on the beach.
I found them on the beach.
Yes.
And the sand here that the candles go into is from Fetler.
Right.
And this is a traditional method of holding
of standing
candles.
them in
So it's
sand.
not just my idea.
Yeah.
It's standing in
Yes.
sand.
I'm admiring St. Cineva here.
She's patron saint of Bergen. I think she should be patron saint of Shetland.
Well, perhaps of Haraldwick.
Of Haraldwick. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen.
The Eastern Orthodox Church is the second largest Christian denomination in the world after Catholicism.
Your saints we venerate as being your image and likeness.
And today it is more prevalent in Greece, Eastern Europe, and Russia.
Holy this icon to your glory, in honor and remembrance of your Saint Cineva. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. We've got time for a cup of tea. Would you like a cup of tea, coffee?
Coffee would be lovely. That would be very welcome. Yes, thank you. But which room for the coffee?
Ah, let me show you. Okay.
Ah, What was striking for me was that I worship in buildings of a certain austerity, but here was colour and the candles. It's a joy and a privilege for me to be able to share in something like this.
Well, I think Reverend Cooper, it was a new experience for him, but it was lovely to have him there, and I think it's enabled our relationship, actually, so that we have now shared each other's traditions. So I definitely feel that that we're a bit closer. In a sense, it is a sense of achievement, but I really do feel that God works through me. So the thanksgiving is to God rather than to me. I just pick up the hammer drill and the sander and do it.
On Unst, as dusk begins to fall on one of the last days of summer, Mother Mary has one final act of worship to perform.
It's just a personal prayer that I do. I'm just heating charcoal, which will carry the incense. It will heat up the incense in this small hand censer. It's just a prayer calling for God to bless the local community and protect them. And sometimes I find myself thinking how lucky we are to live in this peaceful environment.
The coming of winter marks the end of the busy tourist season on Unst. Accommodation in some of the island's hotels will now close between September and May. The Boathaven Museum and Heritage Centre will shut its doors for these 8 months as well. Britain's northernmost cafe, Victoria's Vintage Tea Rooms, will be open for special events only. And the restaurant at the old Air Force Base at Saxe-Voorde will be shut for most of the winter. After 7 years working on Unst, Minister David Cooper knows all too well the enormous changes that the island faces over the months to come.
We make the transfer from having hours and hours of daylight to having a very short day. It's the last chance to make sure that everything's literally fastened down for the winter. In the roughest of weather, the ferries will run when they can. So it will no longer be normal timetable. It'll be when there might be an hour and a half's gap between one rough patch and the next. In the depths of winter, if you've got 3 hours of daylight, you're grateful for it. It means that folk are used to persevering. There's always been a known struggle to survive. Here, folk just have that built-in coping mechanism. It's there from generation to generation. I wouldn't want people to think only of the difficulties that have to be faced living in a remote island. People here are intensely loyal and have open minds to a world perspective. Unst is an island above all others. We're the top island in Britain. The sea, the land, the weather, the variety. Where else to be?